Well, that didn't exactly work out. Luckily, there are people that are smarter than me, so now I shamelessly stole their suggestion to earn a lot more views. If a game about fire failed, then going in with a water-themed game should bring like a massive audience and make people actually like me. And you know what? Even after removing fishing games from the pool, it still leaves us with a lot of PS1 games, way more than I expected to exist. I also tossed away the Powerboat and other racing games because, let's face it, as fun as they can be, they are also super vanilla and we have to go deeper than that. In the Hunt is, well, it's a horizontal shooter with the only remarkable thing about it, outside of honestly quite decent sprite work, being its price. I mean, I love both vertical and horizontal shmups, but 400–500 euros for a poor port of a mediocre one? Yeah, sure. A much better investment both for your time and money would be Diver's Dream, a diving game where you collect stuff, battle wildlife, and just enjoy yourself until you're inevitably killed by an angry jellyfish. There are missions, loads of equipment to buy, and uncanny valley people to meet. It really makes you miss Konami's experimental era. Even if the game was just okay, the idea behind it was enough to carry it. And it would make a fine pick, but we can go even deeper. Critical Depth is a serviceable vehicular combat game that takes place, you guessed it, under the water. It plays better than Twisted Metal, and hey, it was made by the same guys, so at least they learned. But at the same time, the game just lacks charm of its predecessor. Aquanaut's Holiday is, well, it's a game by Artdink, so it's different, positively weird, and looks really nice. It's all about exploration and observation, though you can build your reef if you really want. I didn't really like it, which is funny as Fluid, despite hardly being a game as well, it's more of a visual experience mixed with a simple music generation program, is a thing I absolutely adored since my childhood when I encountered it on one of the demo discs. It's just so beautiful for something made in 1996, and I highly advise you to at least give it a listen. Truth to be told, I planned to do a deep dive into it as it is strangely compelling, but there's another water-themed game I like even more. Treasures of the Deep is an extremely fast-paced underwater action game produced by Namco. Yes, that Namco. I told you about this era of gaming being super experimental, where you use a small sub to uncover treasures, capture rare marine life, and make loads of bad guys cry. The gameplay is smooth and tight, the visuals are genuinely a thing of beauty, and every one out of the 14 available levels, oh no, is masterfully crafted, rewarding speed and skill. The game is short, that's true, but you'll feel compelled to just replay it from time to time, trying different loadouts or just being mean to pirates. Words or even videos can't show you how great it feels to play it. And to this day, it boggles my mind how unknown the game is to the general public. So that's why I'm going to talk about a game I randomly bought after seeing it in the vast sea of online listings and then never even checked it out till today. Well, The copy certainly looks like it spent some time on the bottom of the ocean, being really roughed up. But seeing how rare it is, I only seen it once here, I really don't mind, and hey, it gives it even more personality. The only research I did about the game was seeing like 3 screenshots, one from what I assumed to be a tactical map, one from what I took as equipment setup, and another one from a battle. Every screenshot contained text boxes with anime portray, which immediately screamed to me that it's going to be a Japanese strategy RPG in the vein of my beloved Front Mission 3 or Ring of Red. Quick PSA, Ring of Red, also a game from Konami's experimental era, is pretty great, if rough because of it being a really early PS2 title. But if you want to commandeer a group of walking tanks while experiencing a fantastic alt history setting and a one-of-a-kind combat system, you won't be disappointed with it. It is one of those gems hidden in plain sight that is totally worth playing even today, despite how it can feel a bit stanky at times. PSA over. In my defense, with the word Commander being in the title, I had every right to think this was going to be a strategy game. Anyway, as I've mentioned before, despite having the game for like a year, I never really bothered to check it out. And now was the perfect time to do just that and make a video of it. I mean, submarines are cool. I played Azur Lane for like 4 years and it kind of made me interested in naval combat back in the day. And to this day I'm a big fan of strategy games, so it all started to fall into one beautiful whole. But very soon, after putting the game inside the disc tray, I realized that I was very wrong. Oh, so wrong about what Submarine Commander truly was. I have to say, the introductory cutscene that fills you in onto the world of the game was really well made. Even despite it being a bit of an info dump, I started to wonder though, did some bigwig of the European Union religiously played this game and take it a bit too hard to heart? Because it basically goes like this. A bad environmental crisis happened, ice caps melted, over 90% of the land went underwater, humanity is on the brink of collapse, and big ships and submarines are now like super hyper awesome. So yeah, the world is vastly different than ours, there are no well-known countries to idolize or demonize, the game doesn't really get into this setup more than during the beginning, even if there is actually quite a lot of text in this game. Is the plot and narration good? Well, for now, we can check out the options menu, which allows player toying with sound settings. Really cool! Picking one of the 4 controller setups, or turning off
cool vibrations.
Of course, my goofy ass didn't pay any attention to it at all, leading to not only being surprised by the actual gameplay, but also getting stuck after starting the game. Because past the loading screen and some dialogue boxes from the deputy commander, there was the black screen that went for nearly 2 minutes until the gameplay started. The plot twist was that it wasn't really a black screen at all. If you squint real hard, you'll be able to notice there's an actual submarine in the center of the screen. A submarine that you can actually steer with your controller. Which I guess was what the man who will be the player's right-hand man for the next 4 hours was alluding to. I didn't try to do anything because why would I? Funnily enough, by doing what I do best, that is by not doing anything, I actually skipped the tutorial, like the game just gave up on me. And that's pretty bad as from the very beginning you are thrown into the deep end to sink or swim. Okay, that's the one, we can end this shit finally. And while the first battle is really easy and actually scripted to end after a while, the game is just so different from anything else 99.9% of players have played that going in without a proper explanation will go as poorly as you think it would. Hell, through the duration of the whole game, I kept discovering the hidden cruxes behind the mechanics, controls and features. Outside of that brief tutorial I went into after resetting the game, there are no lifelines waiting for you. You have to discover everything for yourself. So, submarine battles. The very first thing you'll notice is that instead of deep blue, all you can see is green. And that's pretty much everything when it comes to the visuals. It does look very minimalistic indeed. There are some rectangles moving in the distance.
Oh, hi Mark.
A blocky seabed. But you have to realize that what you see is actually what your radar operator interprets through the use of the onboard sonar system. Outside of the main passive radar that constantly listens for any movement and abnormality, but is both marred by low sensitivity and specificity, you have 2 active sonars. Wide, which catches all the potential objects of interest, marking them as simple rectangles that are as likely to be an enemy sub as a random whale or school of fish, and beam, which will completely identify the object if it is shot at it. Launching an attack immediately reveals the attacker's position, as it is such a big loud move that it alerts everyone. Laying low for a while will cause the other side to lose the track of their target, forcing them to restart the search again. It is a fascinating game of cat and mouse, really. And every single thing you do, like opening the torpedo tubes, alerts the other side in some way, making it easier for them to pinpoint your location and act accordingly. Another thing you'll quickly notice, and what made me initially think that this was going to be an SRPG, is how chatty your closest crew, that is, Deputy Commander, Gunner, Navigator and Radar Operator, are. They just can't shut up, constantly bombarding you with information. It can be really annoying at times, especially when you want to record nice battle shots. And as much as I think it adds to the realism and atmosphere, after all, as a commander, you interpret information supported by those under your command and then give orders accordingly. And it makes you feel like a part of something much bigger. I really think they should just add an option to mute them. Anyway, if you finally have a target in your sights, it would be good to shoot them. But to do that, you need to load your torpedoes first. You have to load each tube individually, selecting from 9 different types of torpedoes, each designed for a different task in mind. Only the standard ones are free. They also load the fastest because, yeah, loading takes time. After it is finished, you select which tubes you want to open, because you might like shooting torpedoes in smaller bursts instead of blowing your whole load off. Or when you get tired of waiting for the ones requiring longer loading times. There's a lot of potential strategizing and decisions to make, with the prize being a lot of clicking involved. Every barrage is rewarded with a cinematic shot, presenting the situation in its whole glory. The same happens when torpedoes get into the range of their target. You'll be watching with bated breath, waiting for them to hit, or way more often, miss by a ton. But wait! You have to remember that these aren't cutscenes. Actually, the game is still active, it's just a different camera shot, and you're free to control your sub during these moments, which is incredibly helpful when you are in their sights. Seriously, dodges during this are so satisfying. But once missions stop being one-on-one duels and enemies become more numerous, or as they start splitting their shots instead of firing off everything everywhere all at once, then most of your time will be spent in the cinematic mode, until you discover the ability to skip them with a single button press. It took me 2/3 of the game to discover this option, so don't be like me. Overall, yeah, battles are really magical and I like them a lot. That magic kind of fizzles out once you discover that torpedoing someone from point blank is the best strategy and how OP eco torpedoes are, but until then, Also, just so we are on the same page, Submarine Commander is as realistic representation of submarine combat as the Ace Combat series is of dogfighting, which means it's more of a theme park ride than a valid portrayal of reality. Because guess what? Real submarine battles consisted mostly of waiting for extremely long periods of time and ended with a single well-placed torpedo. That's another understandable break from reality. Subs can take multiple torpedoes here and still go on, while 1 or 2 shot kills would make the game even more tense. It would cause some battles to end in less than a minute, and where would be the fun in that? Let's take a small detour from the gameplay to everything else that surrounds it. Because if you see an anime character in a game, you already know there will be a lot of text boxes and plot. Well, being completely honest, there's not that much to bite in, and even then it's mostly marred by quite poor translation. At least there are some well-developed characters. but only when it comes to the artwork. Writing in this game is kind of flat actually. But that might be the result of the previously mentioned less than stellar translation, which is sad as there are some truly juicy bits for the players to enjoy and... I'm kind of running in circles right now. After the encounter with the tutorial boss is over, our vessel reaches Plant 9, a man-made mechanical island that serves as a haven for everyone coming from the endless sea. This part of the plot is a bit muddy. The chronology in the game isn't clearly stated, but seeing how various organizations have formed and function and how people adapted to the endless ocean, it would make sense that at least a few years had passed since the world got drowned in water. Meanwhile, the game makes it sound as if our submarine was on a mission and then suddenly there was nowhere to go back. I think that the game actually wanted to imply that Plant 9 wasn't supposed to be where it is right now and that it's strange, but whatever. After every mission you get to hang out around Plant 9, traversing through its different sections as if it were an old adventure game. The place is small, just a few screens containing shops, a bar, and a few other spots where you meet up with plot important characters. It's just there. It doesn't really adapt to the experience. I actually think that a simple menu would do a much better job. Then again, there are enough menus as it is, so maybe they just wanted to avoid adding more. Having to enter these areas and talk to characters you don't really care about, who in exchange will spout meaningless dialogue at you just so you'll be able to select the next mission, was hampering the experience. I just wanted to take part in another fun battle and not having to slog through the handful of locations in search of that one person who I have to talk to just enough times so a trigger activates and allows me to visit the leader of the plant. Seriously, there were 2 instances, which isn't a lot, but still, where I wasted more time bumbling around in the exploration section than in the mission following it, just because I didn't talk to a certain character enough. Having to navigate through the plant is kind of charming at first and actually builds the atmosphere, but in the long run it feels meaningless, as if it was added just because the developers thought it would be cool. Anyway, after meeting the plant's leader, this nice and professional lady who tells us about the plant's problems with various aggressors who halt its growth, being good guys we are, we ditch our previous allegiances and decide to help her, for which we are rewarded with the plant's currency, steels. It is also the moment the player can name their vessel. I went with the channel's name, obviously. I always wanted to see it finally sink. And the player character. I'm so mad that I didn't name the commander Kevin Costner, cause, you know, finishing most of the assignments will award you with more steals. And more steals means upgrades and better ammo to make you more proficient at sinking your targets. Curiously, while you gradually get access to more sophisticated torpedoes, the best are still the slow homing eco torpedoes. Meanwhile...
So you wanna be a player, but your wheels ain't flying. You gotta hit us up to get a pimped out ride. You've got to pimp my ride. Damn right. You've got to pimp my ride.
Every single part in the game is available for you to buy as soon as the shop unlocks, allowing you to skip all the intermediate parts and go for the best ones if you manage to scrounge up the steals needed, which is the preferable thing to do. It's not that the in-between parts are worthless though. Strongest parts tend to lower one stat heavily, while raising the others. The weaker parts offer more specific gains, allowing for specialized builds. You can also buy parts that are worse than your starting gear if you want to go for a challenge or a lightweight submarine. Still, if you want the most balanced one that offers extreme firepower, good armor and okay maneuverability, going with the most expensive is the best. As always, the engine is a thing that should be upgraded first, as it greatly increases speed and acceleration with nearly no consequences. The next one is up to the player, really, but going in with 8 launchers instead of the initial 4 is immensely fun. Even if it tanks speed stats a lot, it sure speeds up the fights though. Oh, and at some point you might want to invest in armor that can withstand high pressure, as otherwise, in the later battles, you'll simply start to lose hull durability when chasing the better prepared enemy. If you want, you can also change the colors and emblem of your nuclear sub to make it truly yours. The anticipation when saving for the next important upgrade that will make battling in the depths a little bit more comfortable felt like waiting for Christmas. And once you finally got the funds and purchased the part, that delayed gratification hits like nothing else. And then the cycle repeats again. Sinking enemies also rewards you with spoils of war, some of which are really interesting. You can sell them to this Drebin looking motherfucker for a small profit. If he doesn't feel like charging you for some worthless bit of information, stealing the cash away from you, I would say that he warms up to you as the game progresses, but he is still a complete douche in the end that is just in it for the money. So simply starve him and leave the coolest stuff for yourself. He can take the parachutes now. Why the fuck would you keep parachutes inside your submarine? It doesn't take much for the game to sell to the player how scary submarines really are. As soon as mission number 3, we get to sink actual transport ships allegedly taken over by the pirates. Destroying targets on the surface is obviously much easier than those underwater. After all, that's what subs were made for in the first place. Not to mention that there's simply one less dimension to worry about. Still, if you resurface too fast and immediately launch off your torpedoes, their trajectory can get wonky. Anyway, picture this. You're just chilling on your boat, and then suddenly a massive monster appears, causing a tidal wave. For some reason, people tend to forget how submarines are, especially the nuclear ones. I mean, just compare these models. Anyway, enemies that you don't have to combat underwater are a joke. Yes, even the flying ones, which normally are, you know, counter to submarines. And yeah, you can actually take down a helicopter or a fighter jet with a torpedo, and that's fucking badass. You have to use special harpoon torpedoes specifically made to target everything from the surface and up. They are great. Watching an aircraft carrier crumble after a single salvo is To spice up the combat even further, there are 4 additional tools available to be purchased. Tired of having to aim your torpedoes? Then turn yourself into one for massive damage. Fun fact: while ramming was a strategy used mainly by ships against surfaced submarines, there actually existed ones that did just that, and they were scary, to say the least. In the game you have to go full speed ahead into the side of your enemy for the hit to count, and it's fantastic. Mines are fine, super useful against those annoying enemies that tend to be glued to the seabed. Also, it's fine to do a drive-by and drop one on an enemy like a bomb. The biggest problem with them is that there can be only 5 active at the same time, with no way to detonate them earlier. So, if you miss, well, that's it, because enemies are quite good at avoiding them. And then there are 2 priceless parts available for purchase: Sound Shot and Sound Break. While using them for the first time you might not even notice any effect, which is disappointing. But when they are used against you by the late game enemies, you start to fear them. Imagine this. You're facing the enemy, your torpedoes are nearly ready, and they fire at you, so you prepare to dodge, but then your screen goes red with every object erased as your radar gets jammed by a sound break. It is a genuinely horrifying experience, even if it's just for 10 seconds. And you can just use your periscope to actually see things, but it's not that effective, honestly. Being hit by a sound shot is even worse, as it stops your engine, making you an easy target. Still, as cool as they are at most a nuisance for you, and the enemies just seem to laugh it off. Also, you can't go too trigger happy with them, as you only get 5 charges for each encounter. Fun on paper, it elevates your tension when in the hands of your enemies, but in my opinion, not really worth the steep price. But then again, you'll get both anyway, because... Before we get to the heavy stuff, it's intermission time! You know what's so interesting about this game? There's nearly no info about it. For example, the only GameFAQs page related to the game is for the Japanese version, and there's practically nothing there. Mostly because it wasn't even released in the US. Being a Japanese budget game published in the PAL regions probably wasn't a big help either. Don't get me wrong, there are videos of this game and all, but when it comes to written info, not so much. Same when it comes to discussion. Going in completely blind and being forced to discover everything myself without a crutch in form of a guide was refreshing. By the way, do you know who was the original publisher of the game? JVC. Yeah, the guys who created the VHS also had a gaming division that gathered various studios responsible for mostly budget games. And honestly, I loved their catalog. It's just such a big treasure trove of beautiful trash. Like Wingover 1 and 2, which were interesting takes on flight games that actually featured loads of ideas that weren't used before and even after their release.
Stall warning.
Indy 500 with that super annoying voice clip.
Are you going to break the machine?
That you'll hear constantly.
Are you going to break the machine?
Until the whole content of the game runs out after like 20 minutes or so.
Are you going to break the machine?
Or Real Fishing, a series that exists to this day and is actually, non-ironically, great, being my favorite series concentrating on fishing exclusively. JVC later became Victor, responsible for, Harvest Moon Back to Nature. Just found that cool and wanted to share this with you. So, what are we even fighting for? Plant 9 is constantly being pestered by pirates, undesirables, and later even federal forces who want to have their piece of the pie. You even get to meet those characters in the bar and talk to them, not that they have much to say. Anyway, we become true protectors of Plant 9 and its leader starts to depend more and more on us, with tasks given to us being of higher importance each time we come back from the sea. And bigger responsibilities mean bigger rewards, quickly allowing us to gear up. The community of Plant 9 starts to flourish, and it feels good to have the back of the underdog. Though, as the plot progresses, everything starts to feel more off each time our crew gets off the sub. It stops being about killing pirates and scum and turns into actually fighting with the Federation. You know, the guys we actually worked for before finding Plant 9 and whose vessel we still use as ours. This gets us marked as deserters and traitors, and thus staying and protecting the plant stops being an act of goodwill and becomes a necessity to our survival. And the dockmaster knows it. Our crew morale tanks as they realize that we're now in a state of open war with the most powerful navy in the world. Some even seriously consider self-deletion to avoid consequences of our actions. Very relatable. Anyway, we're not the only ones who do work for Plant 9. And we'll meet other captains at the bar, like Haru, who uses his sub to fish for old nuclear warheads, and who weirdly enough gets into a tussle with us when we are sent to retrieve a weapon of mass destruction that Dockmaster wants to get for protection. What a weird coincidence. Anyone with basic pattern recognizing skills will quickly catch on that showing at the bar is pretty much a death sentence in this game. And you know what most of these encounters have in common? In their final words, they always just warn us about that woman. We stop being protectors and become more like removers of loose ends. But hey! At least everyone is rolling in dough now, right? Mid-game we even get ridiculous bonuses that pretty much remove the economical aspect of the gameplay from the equation, allowing us to buy whatever we want. War makes the economy go boom, and Plant 9's esteemed torpedoes get a price hike. Twice. Everyone is slowly being consumed with greed, and it is indirectly by our doing. It's sickening really, especially dealing with the guy we were pawning stuff from sunken ships. We continue to be Dockmaster's dog and kill for her, even when her mask completely slips off and she stops with the pleasantries. We do that because, well, what other options do we have? It becomes quite depressing really. One by one we dismantle the Federation's navy, knowing that we are the actual bad guys. And they are ruthless, easily the most formidable foes we face in the game, often sending 2 or even 3 vessels at a time. And let me tell you, fighting with 2 subs can be chaotic and can be a nightmare if you don't know what you're doing. And if you still haven't discovered that you can skip the cinematic shots. It stops being so tough once you focus on the only opponent that matters. After sinking him, the rest will just give up. But when they say there will be no mercy, you better believe it. It probably is just the power of autosuggestion, but some encounters actually felt like their AI was different. Federation guys, especially the crew of Slaver 2, were simply ruthless, as if their aggression was cranked up to 11, as if trying to take me down at all costs. While some NPCs previously met in the game acted really passive in fights, almost as if they really didn't want to do it. That was especially true with Captain Selvig, who, before we finally have to fight her, even assisted us during one of the battles. She is one of the last opponents you get to fight in the game, and she does nearly nothing. Taking her out was honestly quite sad. Later, Plant 9 is attacked by battleships. Parts of it are damaged or straight up destroyed. At least in this world, karma seems to exist. It is revealed that Dockmaster was the person behind the environmental catastrophe, something that was constantly alluded to by a weird hobo-looking guy living in the sewers. Seriously, encounters with this fellow were awfully creepy, but in the end he was always one of the good ones. We're pretty much in the endgame now. Destroying the Federation's swimming fortress as pretty much the killing blow to their navy, which causes Dockmaster to be even more disgustingly smug than she already was, as now she practically has no opposition. Meanwhile, we get challenged by the Federation's best commander for a final duel of the game. Plant 9 is in shambles, everyone is fed up. Torpedoes become completely free because nobody really cares anymore, and because you actually need harpoon torpedoes to shoot down the incredibly low-flying nuclear missile launched by the Dockmaster as her final middle finger to humanity. While it is really trivial, I enjoyed this little deviation from the usual formula. After taking care of the ultimate threat, or not, you can let the massive 6-minute timer run out for a beautiful end of the world, and this super ominous looking wall of text that was left completely untranslated because the translation team likely believed that nobody would be so bad or curious to let that long ass timer run out. For the curious, it reads:
"The flames consumed everything on the surface of the earth and the oceans. Only the DNA remaining on Plant 9 dissolved into the sea and became the basis for rebirth 150 million years later."
Oh yeah, Plant 9 has a stockpile of some DNA samples that could be used to restore the world. That was a plot point somewhere. It doesn't really matter anymore, as now we have a final boss to deal with, because yeah, it's one of, I think, 2 multiple phase stages. I think that more stages where you have to conserve your ammo and hull stability so you can take on the second phase would benefit the game greatly. The devil is strong, but he is still just a single submarine, and 1 vs 1 duels were our bread and butter for most of this experience. It was a fun battle, though by this time I already discovered that AI is really horrible with trying to avoid echo torpedoes, so it all ended up being quite anticlimactic. Just like the finale, where despite critically damaging our opponent, we just let him ram us into the side, causing us both to sink. Then again, after killing so many people, did we and our crew deserve any other fate? At least Plant 9 survived alongside the DNA samples. And then the credits roll. Before I finish it all with my opinion, I wanted to talk about the reviews made by others, because oh boy, of course I'm going strictly with the ones made by so-called professionals. And not some schmucks with 251 subscribers or something. As the game wasn't ever officially released in the US, the amount of official reviews was paltry. The scores weren't all that high, the lowest being 1.5 out of 10, while the highest was 4, awarded by the official PlayStation magazine. Curiously enough, the same spectrum could be seen in my local press. The only ones I managed to find and read myself gave it 1 and 4 respectively. And while I can understand a 4, I'm more of a 5 guy myself personally, spoilers, I still believe 4 is reasonably fair. But a 1? You know, that one is from a magazine I really liked as a kid, and I still do, as it to this day is still being printed. The author of that review was one of their best, and yet he did a complete fuck up of a job. Reading the review gave me the feeling that he played the game for about 30 minutes and quit to write a scathing opinion, finishing it by calling Submarine Commander the worst PS1 game ever. Like, my dude! Of course, he makes himself an expert by mentioning Silent Service and 688 attack sub in the first words of the review. Sure thing, buddy. And while I can excuse him ragging on how messy the plot is or how uninteresting characters really are, whining about graphics, which are representation of what Sonar picks up, and as I've mentioned before multiple times, you can press a button to use a periscope and see the real deal, and he just goes on and on that the game looks outdated for something released in 2001, when in reality the game came out in 1999, but who needs to research before writing a review? And beating up the audio visuals was pretty much it for that review. There wasn't any substance, no information about how the game actually plays, just a really vague statement that the gameplay is less fun than in the games he previously mentioned. Very deep. Competent review, but what truly shows that he doesn't know what he was writing about was the bit about traveling the world and discovering various cities and ports. Spoiler, there are none, just Plant 9. He also mentions actively repairing your sub when in the game proper the durability is restored to the maximum at the start of every mission. I mean, the same magazine did the exact same thing to Digimon World 1, with its review clearly showing that the game was dropped after an hour. And as I went through various reviews of different non-mainstream games in that magazine, I've noticed a repeated pattern. Truly, some things never change. We just didn't see them back then. The second review at least tries to be fair, and I actually agree with the reviewer that Submarine Commander has a bit of a schizophrenia and it's a problem. The game tries to be a simulator, which is reflected in controls and relatively slow gameplay, but at the same time doesn't go hard enough on that front, simplifying many aspects, making it a game for no one. Casuals will get bored and frustrated, while hardcore enthusiasts will find it lackluster. Of course, the Sonar graphics gets brought up again because nobody uses the periscope. In their defense though, I consciously found out about its existence 2.5 hours into the game, and seeing that they probably didn't even play for an hour, then it starts to make sense. Okay, now it's the time for the Chief Bozo's opinion. Submarine Commander is the best simulator of entrapment ever made. What starts as good intentions quickly devolves into treason and digging yourself deeper by committing worse and worse atrocities, just because there's no real way to go back. You know, when Dockmaster revealed her true colors, at first I was surprised that we just kept doing missions for her until I actually asked myself a question. What else could we do? The Federation hates us to the core, and we just keep giving them more reasons for that. The situation is heavy, bleak, and makes you think about things that will make you depressed. Speaking of which, there's another perfect synergy between story, themes and gameplay. It's money! When you come to Plant 9, you're broke. And for a while you scrape for all the steals you can manage to be able to purchase upgrades important to your survival. And while payouts are really small in the beginning, the fact that the Dockmaster rewards you more and more with each mission feels good. Like she actually appreciates us. Sometimes she even adds something extra, allowing us to go crazy. It makes sense. Or work allows the whole plant to concentrate on production and thus supplying everyone who wants to pay with the goods or work. We are the reason why Plant 9 is getting richer. Currency is a funny thing. It has no real value, but we have this big silly agreement that it actually has. Money and generosity are also some of the best ways to manipulate someone, and our commander got caught good by the scheming bitch that is Dockmaster. Over time, we eliminate those that could restrict the economical boom of the plant, alongside those who became a burden to the system. I'm nearly 100% sure that when we fought other people who visited Plant 9, they were offered payment for our heads, because, well, we were getting too powerful and actually earned too much, getting closer and closer to the realization that the system is actually pointless and doesn't benefit us at all. Growing war economy causes torpedo prices to double and near the endgame quadruple, because hey, people are still going to pay. After all, battle is a life and death situation, and hey, each battle has at least 2 paying sides. It is as devious as it is genius. Late game, Dockmaster gives us so much currency that we don't really have anything to spend it on. We can get all upgrades we ever wanted, we can buy nearly endless supply of every type of torpedo. And then what? Steals become obsolete. Sure, bigger numbers are fun, but why bother? Even though we still get paid, because we actually can't spend it on anything impactful anymore, so it's like we work for free. It's an illusion of meaningfulness, and Submarine Commander is full of those. The whole exploration is just there for you to waste time. Fixed drops after each battle, outside of brief moments of comedy, could be just replaced with bigger payouts and nobody would notice, and the crew dialogue during combat is rarely useful outside of being an atmospheric touch. By themselves, those elements are meaningless, a waste of time that should be either expanded upon, streamlined, or cut out entirely. And yet, when combined, if you really put your mind into it, they create a narrative whole. So, is Submarine Commander a good game? No. I liked its plot, and even after cracking the winning formula, I still very much enjoyed the naval battles. Would I prefer having more lesser enemies alongside 1 or 2 stronger ones during each mission? Of course. Also, the fact that there are no 2-player duels is a crime, as it would make for a very exhilarating experience. The game is short, 3-4 hours max, and you're done. Battles can be closed in 3 to 5 minutes, a bit more in the beginning, and when you somehow lose your target and search for them hopelessly. After finishing the game, you can play it again, but there's not much incentive to do so, as you unlock battle mode anyway, where you can freely customize your sub without having to buy any parts yourself and choose whichever battle you want. There are 23 of them. Twice in the main story you'll have to choose between 2 missions. The other will be gone, so each playthrough consists of 21 battles. They are fine. I wish they were more complex, but oh well. At least the controls are very good. Made me want to try the game again with the Sony's official big analog controller made for simulation games. But seriously, while the game has valid options for the standard digital pad controls, using one stick to dive and rise, with the other being responsible for starting the engine and maneuvering, is just perfect. I like the plot and feels. Even if they're both quite basic, graphics are serviceable. I will fight anyone who thinks that the ship and submarine models are bad, because they're obviously not. The minimalistic aesthetics fit the game's theme well, but character art feels just like early 2000s bootleg manga art style made by Westerners. It mostly feels really off. The music... what music? There are some tracks, but most of them are more like jingles that play in certain moments. 99% of the time there is just you and the sounds of silence. Or rather the loud humming of the engine. I mean, it makes the game feel more lonely and tense, I guess. Okay, there are actual music tracks for main menu. Credits. And a really goofy one for stage select. Seriously, what's with that? So, that's Submarine Commander for you. Now you know everything there is about this game. Then again, while it is something completely mid and I ruined all the surprises, if you're into PS1 games, I think you should try it, just to be able to say that you played it. When I went through it myself, I felt like a fucking archaeologist, exploring something familiar yet unknown. It is such a random nothing of a game, but at the same time, I was so surprised and intrigued by it that despite its flaws, I kind of loved it. Perhaps as the only man on Earth. Oh, and if you play through the game a second time, or maybe just finish the battles you didn't get to play in your first playthrough through mission select, I don't know, you'll unlock a mission where you fight a ghost ship that hurts you if you fire torpedoes at it. Why? I don't know. I just wanted to say it for completion's sake. And, well, because it's pretty strange.